They don't warn you what silence sounds like after the screaming stops. When my squad died, the comms went first. One moment I heard their voices, the shouts, the orders, the jokes that tried to hide fear, and the next only static. Then the static faded too. That's when I realized I was the only heartbeat left on this rock. The Terminids move differently when you're alone. You can feel them under the dirt, the ground breathing with them. The air tastes like iron and smoke. The sun never stays still. It burns and fades and burns again, as if the planet itself doesn't want to look at what's crawling beneath its skin. SuperEarth's anthem still plays faintly from my helmet speakers, distorted and broken. For democracy, it says, like a ghost whispering a lie it no longer believes. I've lost count of how many hives I've seen, how many comrades I've buried beneath alien sand. But orders are orders. Hold position, secure objective, deliver freedom, even if I'm the last one who can. If this is what freedom costs, then SuperEarth got a bargain. The drop went wrong before I even hit the dirt. Our Hellpod formation should have come down clean. 5 pods in a diamond, full synchronization, orbital precision to the meter. But the swarm was thicker than command briefed. The moment we broke atmosphere, they hit us with spore clouds, blotting out the signal feed. My pod went spinning into the black. The last thing I saw on the tactical HUD was Bravo 4's beacon winking out like a dying star. Then impact. When I woke, my shoulder screamed. The harness had half snapped and the pod door was crumpled inward from the force. The terrain was wrong. All ridges of hardened resin and sand glass, like the surface had melted and then been shaped by claws. I kicked the hatch open and stumbled into daylight that looked diseased. A yellow haze thick with floating ash. Comms, dead. Beacon, red. Ammo, half. The first rule of deployment is regroup. The second is keep moving. Alone, they contradict each other. I started uphill toward where the squad should have landed. The sound carried strangely. The buzz of distant wings, the low hum that means a hive is awake. My boots stuck to the resin ground, each step peeling away with a wet crack. A trail of impact craters led me across the ridgeline. 2 pods, both empty. One had been split open from the outside. Inside I found fragments of armor, the kind only a Helldiver wears. The chest plate still had the SuperEarth eagle etched into it, burned black through the center. No blood, no body, just the smell. That's when I saw the movement. Far below, a swarm tide moved like living smoke. Thousands of Terminids flowing over the rocks, glinting in the sick sunlight. They weren't moving randomly, they were converging. Toward what, I didn't know yet. The motion triggered a memory, Vale's training vid back at base. Terminids don't hunt the way predators do. They cleanse. They erase contamination. I guess that made me contamination. I tried the beacon again, static, then a faint voice. Extraction compromised. Before cutting out, I was too far from the evacuation point, assuming it even existed anymore. That's when the shadow passed overhead, a drone. SuperEarth issue, but badly damaged, one wing hanging by a thread of metal. It circled once, scanned me, and broadcast in a cheerful monotone. "Citizen! Maintain position for democratic rescue." Then it detonated mid-air, clipped by a spore missile from somewhere in the clouds. The shockwave threw me onto my back. When I opened my eyes, I saw them cresting the ridge. Dozens of them. Smaller drones, scout Terminids, their shells slick with acid, their limbs jointed like knives. Their clicking echoed across the valley. I leveled my rifle and waited for the first one to charge. The targeting reticle flickered red, the ammo counter bleeding down. Controlled bursts, short sprays, head, joint, thorax, move. They died fast, but there were always more. When the last one fell twitching, I reloaded and listened. Silence again, the kind that hums. I dragged the dead Terminid aside and saw something glinting under its carcass. A Helldiver badge. Name etched in acid burn. Keller. He was Bravo 2. The ground trembled. Not the hive hum, not the distant swarm. This was heavier, rhythmic, something beneath the surface, a heartbeat the size of a tank. I backed toward higher ground and saw the ridge bulge like skin pressed from below. The ground erupted. A massive form tore through the resin. A brood tyrant, at least 4 meters tall, armor like obsidian, mandibles slick with glow acid. Its screech vibrated my bones. I ran. Helldivers don't retreat, we reposition. That's what I told myself as I sprinted across the ridge, breath hammering, rifle clattering against my chest. I dove into a crater just before the tyrant's claws tore through where I'd been. I checked the ammo counter again. 42 rounds left, enough to tell this planet I was still alive. I stayed in that crater until night fell, or what passed for night on this cursed world. The sun didn't set. It just dimmed behind a veil of yellow ash until the light turned sickly gray. The heat stayed, though, the kind that presses against your skin like wet cloth. My armor's filters wheezed, trying to keep up. The brood tyrant had moved on hours ago, but its footsteps lingered in the ground like aftershocks. Each one had left a crater of its own, steaming faintly. Every few minutes I heard the chitter of scavenger drones picking over the battlefield, dragging the dead Terminids away. They don't waste their own. Nothing does out here. I patched into the emergency channel again, cycling frequencies static. Then faintly a voice. Helldiver command. Transmitting beacon. All units consolidate. Hive class Sigma expanding in Sector 9. Sector 9. That was here. The hive wasn't a nest, it was a continent. I started walking east, following the terrain's natural slope. The sand glass shifted with every step, crunching underfoot like bone. My helmet's motion tracker flickered constantly, red dots appearing and fading faster than I could react. Too many signals. The planet itself was alive, breathing through the swarm. Half a click out, I found the wreckage of Keller's hellpod. The pod was split clean down the center, metal edges melted by acid. Inside, his pulse rifle was fused to the floor. The body was gone, probably dragged below. But his datapad was intact. I wiped the acid crust away and powered it up. The display flickered. Mission log 3/5, Operation Liberty's Hand. Keller's voice, distorted by static, came through. Estimated contact count exceeding projections. Swarm density off charts. Alpha team lost at drop. Repeating. Request immediate orbital strike coordinates. Then silence. The rest of the file was corrupted, but one line stood out in the log summary. Primary objective, hive core disruption. Secondary, contained biological spread, containment. That meant the upper brass had known the Terminids were adapting faster than the simulations predicted. They didn't send us to win, they sent us to delay. I looked out across the plain. The horizon was glowing, not sunlight but bioluminescence. The hive, a vast pulsing spire of chitin and fire, exhaling clouds of glowing spores into the air. Around it, the swarm moved like a tide. SuperEarth propaganda called them mindless insects. Standing there, I realized how wrong that was. The hive pulsed like a brain. The movement of the swarm wasn't chaos. It was communication. Each wave, each screech, each flash of color meant something. I could almost feel it. A rhythm beneath my feet, syncing with my heartbeat. When the wind shifted, the sound reached me. A low, resonant hum. It wasn't mechanical, it was alive, and for a moment it felt like it was listening. I crouched behind a ridge and scanned the perimeter. Scouts, dozens of them. Smaller than the brood tyrant, but faster. moving in circles around the hive's base. Between them, rivers of glowing fluid ran like veins through the landscape. That was when I saw the light. A faint blue flicker across the valley floor. Not swarm glow, not organic, human technology. I switched to night vision and zoomed in. A distress beacon, Helldiver issue, half buried in the resin. And next to it, a figure slumped against a rock. Armor shredded, helmet cracked. I made my way down the slope, keeping low. Every crunch of sand felt like thunder. When I reached the body, I recognized the armor markings. Bravo 5. Her nameplate was gone, melted off. Her visor was dark. I tapped the shoulder plate. No response. Then I saw the wound. Half her torso had been eaten through. The acid had cauterized it instantly. Her left hand still clutched a grenade, unarmed, fingers locked in death grip. I pried it loose, muttering under my breath, "Permission to carry on, soldier." The beacon still blinked, faint and stubborn. I synced it to my suit's power line. The coordinates uploaded instantly. It wasn't a rescue point. It was Keller's fallback marker. If contact is lost, regroup at Sigma depth entry. Sigma depth. The hive tunnels. Of course. The only way to destroy the core was from within. The hum grew louder, echoing through the sand. The ground rippled. My motion tracker flared red. They'd found me. I grabbed Keller's grenade, checked my ammo, and whispered the words I'd heard 1,000 times, but never really believed until now. For SuperEarth. Then I ran toward the light. The entrance to Sigma depth wasn't built. It was grown. The ridge sloped into a canyon of black resin, every surface slick with organic film that glistened in the glow of my helmet lamp. The air vibrated, not from sound but from pressure, like standing inside a heartbeat. It took effort just to breathe. Every inhale carried the taste of acid and decay. The mouth of the hive loomed before me, a jagged wound in the planet's skin. Its edges pulsed faintly, opening and closing like a living throat. Every few seconds, a surge of hot air rushed out, thick with spores. I crouched low, checked my rifle, and muttered, "Democracy's work is never done," even though I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince. The descent was slow. The walls were soft, almost spongy. My boots sank with every step. The deeper I went, the more the noise changed. Clicking, echoing, whispering, a chorus of movements layered beneath the constant hum of the hive's heart. At 60 meters, the light behind me vanished completely. The hive sealed itself. Panic clawed at my throat for half a heartbeat. I tapped my visor light higher, the beam cutting through clouds of dust and chitin fragments. I was inside a tunnel easily 20 meters wide, its walls latticed with veins of glowing fluid. I could see shapes moving inside those veins, larvae, twitching. I switched my rifle to burst fire and advanced. 5 minutes later, I found the first sign of Bravo Squad. The tunnel opened into a chamber filled with debris, shattered armor, rifles fused into the floor, one hellpod door half melted into the wall. The resin glowed faintly blue where the soldiers had burned it with thermite, their last stand. There were scorch marks everywhere, and among them carvings in the wall, knife marks forming words, holding, praying, dying. That last word was unfinished. I touched the letters, feeling the groove where the blade had slipped. Maybe it was Keller. Maybe it was someone else. It didn't matter. Every soldier down here became the same ghost eventually. The tunnel forked into 3 branches. The central one pulsed with heavier light, the direction of the hive core. But to the right, my tracker showed weak movement. Not swarm signatures, rhythmic, human. I followed it. The passage twisted into a spiral, the floor damp beneath my boots. The sound grew louder, faint breathing, then a cough. When I rounded the bend, I saw her. A Helldiver. Alive. Barely. She was half buried in resin, armor corroded, helmet shattered. Her left arm was missing from the elbow down, the rest of her was shaking. I knelt beside her and triggered my med kit. "Easy, soldier," I said, injecting her with coagulant and stabilizer. Her eyes flicked open, dazed and glassy. Who are you?" "Arlen, Bravo 3. She tried to speak, but the words came out broken. "They're listening. Inside the walls." I looked around. The resin veins above us pulsed faster, like veins reacting to sound. "We're getting you out," I said. She laughed. A dry, brittle sound. "Out? There's no out. They're in the planet." Then her expression shifted. Not fear, recognition. She stared past me, eyes wide. "Behind you." I turned. A Terminid emerged from the wall like water unfolding from the resin. A soldier cast, its armor black and glistening, limbs razor-edged. It shrieked and lunged. 2 shots to the head, 1 to the thorax. It collapsed, ichor splattering the walls. The veins above us brightened violently. The hive screamed, that's the only word for it. A sound that hit every nerve at once, vibrating through bone and metal alike. The soldier grabbed my wrist. "Now they know you," she whispered. Then the resin under her cracked. She was pulled under in an instant, swallowed whole by the hive. I froze, staring at the rippling ground. "Not today," I muttered, pulling a grenade from my belt and dropping it into the crack. The explosion blew a crater through the tunnel floor, sending resin shards raining. The scream stopped. For now, I stood there breathing hard, surrounded by smoke and twitching limbs. My visor displayed a new warning. Oxygen depletion, 37%. The hive wasn't just a nest, it was feeding on me. Somewhere deeper I could hear the hive heart pounding faster, like it was waking up. I checked my last grenade, tightened my grip on the rifle and whispered, "For SuperEarth." For the ones already gone, then I stepped into the dark. The deeper I went, the more the world stopped feeling like a cave and started feeling like a creature. The tunnels weren't carved, they were shaped by something that breathed. Every few meters the walls flexed as though air was being drawn through lungs buried miles beneath the surface. The air was wet, thick with spores, and my filters whined with every intake. The hive didn't smell like rot anymore. It smelled sweet. That was worse. Sweet meant chemical lures, pheromones. The Terminids weren't hunting anymore. They were calling. My visor HUD flickered with proximity alerts, then died entirely. EMP interference. The suit lights dimmed, leaving only the faint organic glow of the hive veins. I could feel the pulse through the floor, slow, steady, deliberate. The heartbeat. Every Helldiver learns the term in training. Hive heartbeat. It's how the swarm communicates, the psychic rhythm that links them through pheromone waves and low-frequency vibration. You can't hear it unless you're inside one. You're not supposed to survive long enough to. Now I was listening to it. It wasn't random. There was a pattern. Long pause. 3 short beats. Long pause again. A rhythm of intent, a warning, or a question. The deeper I went, the stronger it got. My armor began to vibrate in sync, subtle at first, then harder until the plates rattled. My teeth ached. I could feel the hum crawling up my spine, trying to match my pulse. I reached a chamber shaped like a heart, massive, circular. The walls lined with glowing cysts that pulsed with light. Each one contained something alive, twitching inside. Eggs, number, too big. Human shapes. I stepped closer. My lamp beam revealed armor plating under the resin. Helldiver armor. They weren't dead. They were encased. their faces barely visible through the membrane. A dozen of them, maybe more. Some moved. Reflexes. The hive wasn't consuming them, it was using them. That's when the heartbeat changed. It accelerated like a drum responding to my presence. The cysts pulsed faster. One of the trapped soldiers twitched violently, head snapping toward me, mouth opening as if to scream. But the sound that came out wasn't human. It was the same low hum as the hive, echoing my own heartbeat. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a resin ridge. My rifle shook in my hands. I aimed, hesitated. The thing inside the armor still looked human until it started to move toward me, tearing through the membrane, slow and deliberate. Its eyes were gone, filled with black fluid. The hive was turning Helldivers into conduits. I fired. The first burst shredded the chest plate. The second ignited the resin. The chamber erupted in flame and shrieks. The light flared across the walls, illuminating hundreds of tunnels branching out like veins. I ran. The echo followed. The hum shifted pitch again, no longer rhythmic. It was calling, summoning. The floor trembled as new sounds joined the heartbeat, skittering claws, hundreds of them converging. I switched to thermal vision. The tunnels ahead glowed red with movement. I could see their shapes streaming toward me from every direction. I had seconds. I dove behind a fallen support column, pulled out Keller's last grenade and primed it. "Sorry, brother," I muttered, "but you're about to save me twice." I threw it into the approaching tunnel. The explosion rocked the ground, collapsing the entrance. The swarm's screeches cut off abruptly, buried beneath tons of molten resin. I caught my breath. The air burned my lungs, my visor's internal systems screamed with heat warnings. But I didn't stop moving. There was no up or down anymore, just forward. As I climbed deeper through the tunnel, I realized something that chilled me more than the swarm itself. The hive heartbeat hadn't just been communication. It had been searching. It was learning my rhythm. Each step I took, it echoed. Each breath, it matched. The hive wasn't just aware of me. It was adapting to me. When I reached a new chamber, the heartbeat stopped. The silence was worse. Then a voice whispered through my comms, a voice I hadn't heard since the nursery. "Arlen." "Do you hear it too?" I froze. Vale's voice. But Vale was dead, had been for years. The hive had found another way to talk. At first, I thought the voice was a hallucination brought on by oxygen deprivation, but it came again, clear, calm, too deliberate to be madness. "Arlen," it said, gentle as static, "you don't have to be afraid. You've always been part of the rhythm." I froze, my rifle half raised. "Who is this?" "You know me," it said. "You knew me when you were young. You wrote the stories that made them believe Vale." The name slipped out before I could stop it. The sound wasn't coming through the comms anymore. It was vibrating inside my skull, the same frequency as the hive's heartbeat. My suit registered no external signal. The hive was in my neural link. I ripped off my helmet. The air burned like acid mist, but at least it was quiet for a moment. Then faintly the hum came back, rising through the bones of the cavern. "You shouldn't have come here," the voice said. Still Vale's tone, but wrong, too even, too empty. "You can't fight what you are. SuperEarth built you to spread belief. The hive only builds faster." I pressed my back against the wall, breath ragged. "You're not Vale. Names don't matter down here," it said. She believed in freedom. "I believe in continuity. You both write for gods you'll never meet." Something moved in the shadows across the chamber. A shape wearing Helldiver armor, its surface glistening with resin. It stepped into the light. The armor was torn, but the figure inside was unmistakable. Vale's face, or something that remembered her shape, stared back at me through black, glassy eyes. "Do you know what happens when you fall into the hive?" she asked. "You stop being one. You start being all." I raised my rifle. "Stay back." She didn't. She stepped closer, slow, deliberate, hands open like a teacher soothing a child. SuperEarth calls it infestation, but it's evolution. No more lies, no more orders, only purpose. The hive doesn't ask for obedience, it gives it freely. Her words twisted in my head, like echoes trying to make sense of themselves. I remembered the reflection room, the repeated question, "Would you die for freedom?" And the voice that asked it had sounded just like this. I fired. The blast hit her center mass, knocking her backward into the resin wall. Her body didn't fall. It melted into it, the wall closing around her like liquid glass. The hum rose again, faster now, more aggressive. My ears popped. Every vein in the walls began to glow. Vale's voice came again, not from a mouth, but from everywhere at once. "You see? Even now, you choose faith. You destroy what you fear, and that is why the hive wins." My suit's oxygen hit critical. I reattached the helmet, gasping through the recycled air. My HUD flickered back to life just long enough to show new signals. Not dozens this time, but hundreds. Every tunnel feeding into the chamber was lighting up red. The hive wasn't just aware of me anymore. It was coming for me. I sprinted across the chamber, following a side passage that sloped downward, deeper into the core. I didn't know why. Survival instinct maybe, or madness. The hum shifted again, changing tone. It wasn't a chase rhythm anymore, it sounded curious. The passage ended at a pit of liquid resin, glowing orange, bubbling with heat. A massive shape pulsed beneath the surface, slow and steady. The hive mind. For a moment I stood there, staring down at it. I could feel it staring back, through the resin, through the sound, through me. The voice whispered again, soft and endless. "You wanted to be free, Arlen. Here there is no difference between truth and belief. Stay, and you'll never be alone again." My finger hovered over the grenade pin. My hand shook. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was freedom. Unity without thought, peace without choice. But then I remembered Keller's voice from his log, that last, desperate plea. "Request immediate orbital strike. If I died here, maybe the system would mark my beacon. Maybe they'd burn this place to ash." I pulled the pin and whispered, "For the dream, not the machine." Then I threw it into the pit. The explosion didn't sound like a weapon. It sounded like a scream. The grenade hit the molten resin and detonated in a flash that turned the whole chamber white. The heat wave tore through me, slamming me into the wall. For a second, everything went silent. No hum, no breath, no thought. Just that blinding light and the weight of the shock. Then the hive began to burn. The resin veins burst one after another, spraying glowing ichor like blood from severed arteries. The floor split open, releasing a pillar of fire and smoke that filled the tunnels. I tried to move, but the force kept pushing me down, armor plates rattling from the pressure. My visor cracked. Oxygen warnings screamed in my ears. Somewhere beyond the chaos, I heard the hive's rhythm distort. No longer steady, no longer calm, it was screaming in pain. The hive mind's voice returned. No longer patient, no longer human. "You destroy what connects you. You burn what makes you whole." I pushed myself upright, coughing into the helmet filters. "Good," I rasped. "Means it's working." The tunnel ceiling gave way. I dove as molten debris crashed where I'd been standing. My boots sank into resin that was already cooling, turning from liquid orange to brittle black. The air reeked of chemicals and ash. Every surface around me glowed faintly, dying light, fading heartbeat, but something else was rising. A deeper rumble beneath the noise. I turned toward the pit, The explosion hadn't destroyed the hive mind. It had woken it. The resin lake began to churn violently. From the depths, massive shapes moved. Appendages thicker than tanks, limbs that split into claws. I backed away, rifle raised, knowing how useless it was. The hive mind breached. It rose like a mountain of flesh and armor, dripping molten resin from its form. It had no face, only a pulsing mass of eyes. Human, insect, something between. Each eye flickered with faint blue light, reflections of the soldiers it had consumed. And then, among those countless faces, I saw one I knew. Vale. Her voice echoed again, fragmented, multiplied, looping through itself. Stay, stay, stay. I fired until the rifle clicked empty. The rounds sparked off its armor, barely scratching the surface. The recoil shook my arms numb. The hive mind didn't even slow. It leaned closer, the air around it vibrating with its words. Even in defiance, it said, you serve. You bring fire, you bring change, you are part of the pattern. A tentacle lashed out, slamming into the floor beside me. The shockwave sent me tumbling through a fissure, deeper still. I fell for what felt like forever. My HUD flashing red, suit screaming about fractures and pressure. When I hit the bottom, my body went still. For a moment, I thought I was dead. Then I saw the light, not hive glow, not fire, real light. Thin and white, trickling through cracks above. I had fallen through the hive's outer shell. Beneath me, the ground was solid again. Rock, not resin. The hive mind's roar echoed through the tunnels, but distant now. I checked my pack. One medkit left, one flare, one magazine of ammo. My grenades were gone, my comms were still dead. But the beacon, the one I'd synced to Keller's coordinates, was still flashing. Weak but alive, and the light above wasn't just sunlight, it was orbital. The shimmering pulse of an incoming bombardment pattern. Command must have picked up the beacon signal. They were going to glass the hive. I laughed, a raw sound. Guess they finally listened. I limped toward the nearest fissure, dragging my rifle behind me. Every step felt like walking on knives. The heat was unbearable, but the deeper roar of engines above meant salvation was coming. The hive mind's final words rippled through the cavern. Even ashes remember. Then the world turned white again. Fire fell from the sky. When the bombardment began, it didn't come as sound. It came as pressure, the kind that turns air into weight and weight into pain. The first impact was a kilometer away, but I felt it in my chest like a hammer blow. The ground heaved, the rock beneath me splitting open. Columns of plasma streaked down through the haze, tearing through resin and chitin, igniting everything they touched. The hive screamed again, not as one voice, but as thousands overlapping, discordant. The whole planet seemed to cry out in fury. I staggered toward higher ground, half blind through smoke. Each blast painted the world in flashes of orange and white. The resin walls melted and ran like candle wax. I could see silhouettes writhing inside, the last of the Terminids burning, dissolving into light. My comms crackled. All units, orbital sweep engaged. Stand clear of impact zones. Then static. I laughed under my breath. Yeah, clear. Sure, the second wave hit closer. The heat rolled over me like ocean surf. My armor's temperature warning screamed non-stop, but there was nowhere left to go. The hive above was collapsing in on itself. Kilometers of tunnels folding, crushing, erasing. The beacon on my HUD flickered weakly, still transmitting, still calling. I stumbled through a field of molten resin, boots sticking with every step. The air was thick enough to taste. For a moment I thought I saw movement, a Helldiver silhouette through the smoke. Keller, number, impossible. I raised my visor filter and called out, "Identify yourself!" The shape turned. Through the shimmer, I saw armor blackened and cracked, visor glowing faintly blue. It didn't answer. It just stood there, head tilted, watching me. Then I realized. It wasn't looking at me. It was looking through me. The ground split between us. The fissure glowed with fire, swallowing the figure whole. Another blast hit, closer this time. I was thrown forward, tumbling across the slope. My visor shattered, shards of glass scattered like stars. Through the smoke, the sky came into view, streaks of plasma fire raining down like judgment. For a heartbeat, I saw the orbiting super destroyers, vast silhouettes against the upper atmosphere, their cannons firing in synchronized rhythm. Beautiful, terrifying. That was democracy in motion. I dragged myself behind a fallen boulder and activated the last flare in my kit. The red light cut through the smoke, reflecting against the molten landscape. If command's sensors were scanning, maybe they'd see it. Maybe extraction was still an option. Or maybe they'd see it and fire anyway. The bombardment paused. For the first time in hours or maybe minutes. There was quiet. The silence of aftermath. The hive was gone. The hum, the vibration, the endless rhythm, all gone. I looked around. The canyon I'd entered through was unrecognizable. The resin had turned to black glass. The tunnels were gone, replaced by smoking pits. The air shimmered with heat distortion. I keyed the emergency channel again. Helldiver Bravo 3. Operation Liberty's Hand. Hive neutralized. Repeat. Hive neutralized. Request extraction static, then faintly. Copy. Signal received. Coordinates locked. Evac inbound. Maintain position. I almost didn't believe it. The evac ETA flashed on my HUD. T-minus 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I could survive 5 minutes. The wind shifted. I smelled burning fuel. Human fuel, not organic, dropship engines, then something else. Movement. From the far ridge, through the rolling haze, came the sound of claws on glass. I turned. They weren't dead, not all of them. The bombardment had annihilated the main hive, but some of the outer drones had survived. Smaller, faster, crawling over the debris like embers that refused to die. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. I checked my rifle. 18 rounds left, no grenades, no backup, 5 minutes. I limped to the top of the ridge, found a narrow bottleneck between two melted slabs and planted myself there. If this was where it ended, I'd make it loud. The first Terminid crested the ridge. I shot it point blank. The second followed, shrieking, claws raised. Another burst, another corpse. I reloaded and shouted, voice raw, "Come on then! You want freedom? Take it!" Their shadows swarmed the slope, black against firelight. My flare guttered out, my rifle overheated. The air was red with ash and blood. Then through the roar, I heard it. Engines. Extraction. I didn't stop firing. I didn't look away. I stood there on the ridge, holding the line alone until the sky itself opened with light, and when the dropship's ramp descended through the smoke, I finally let the rifle fall. I was alive. But SuperEarth would never know what really happened here. The dropship descended like an angel made of iron and fire. Its thrusters scorched the ridge, scattering ash and resin fragments into a storm. The noise was deafening, a thunderous hum that drowned out even the screams of the dying swarm. I had to shield my visor from the blast wash just to stay upright. Through the haze, the ramp opened. The silhouette of a pilot in heavy armor waved me forward, motioning urgently. "Move, Helldiver, let's go now!" I stumbled through the burning debris, firing short bursts behind me as the last of the Terminids clawed over the ridge. They moved like rabid dogs, their shells cracked and smoking from the bombardment. Their eyes glowing with hive fire. I hit one square in the chest. It folded backward into molten glass. Another lunged from the side, catching my shoulder plate. Its mandibles clamped down hard, the armor creaking. I jammed my sidearm into its mouth and pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. I tore free and used the weapon like a hammer, crushing its head until it stopped twitching. The pilot reached down, grabbed my forearm, and hauled me up the ramp. The hydraulics hissed shut, the ship lifted, and the ridge disappeared beneath a sea of smoke. Inside, the world was red light and sirens. The pilot slammed into the cockpit, shouting coordinates into the comms. "Command, this is Drop 27, we've got a survivor." Repeat, one survivor extracted from Sigma depth, en route to orbit. The deck shook as another orbital strike hit the planet below. I collapsed against the bulkhead, every muscle trembling. My visor was half shattered. The HUD flickered like a dying heartbeat. The air inside the dropship was cold, filtered, clean, civilized. It felt wrong. The pilot turned back, helmet reflecting the emergency lights. "Name and designation?" "Arlen," I rasped. "Bravo 3. He paused. "Bravo 3? The rest of your team's MIA. "I know," I said. "They didn't make it." He studied me for a moment. "You brought down a whole hive alone?" I didn't answer. The truth was too heavy. I hadn't brought it down. I'd only burned it. The hive would remember. We broke through the cloud layer. The view outside the viewport was impossible. The entire hemisphere of the planet glowing with fire. Where once stood the hive, there was now a single scar of molten light stretching horizon to horizon. SuperEarth's anthem crackled faintly through the cabin speakers, the automatic playback triggered by mission success confirmation. The irony nearly made me laugh. "For freedom," the voice declared, triumphant and hollow. The pilot didn't turn it off. None of us did. We just let it play, filling the silence we didn't know how to answer. Halfway to orbit, my comms rebooted, syncing automatically with the SuperEarth relay. A flood of data filled the display. Command logs, casualty lists, mission debriefs. My name blinked red. Status: KIA. Confirmed. I stared at it. They already buried me. The pilot looked over. "Better to stay dead," he said quietly. When we reached orbit, the hangar lights of the super-destroyer Valiant Dawn filled the view. The bay doors opened, swallowing the dropship in light. Inside, the deck crew was already lined up, waiting with scanners and containment teams. The moment we touched down, they swarmed the ramp. "Decon protocol!" one shouted. "Possible biocontamination!" They hit me with pressure foam before I could even stand. My armor hissed, steam rising off the plates. Hands dragged me down the ramp into quarantine lighting. A medic's voice barked orders. "Vitals unstable! Get that helmet off!" The seals popped. Fresh air hit my face, crisp and cold. Then came the questions. What happened in the hive? How did you survive? Did you make contact with the core? I could still hear Vale's voice echoing in my skull. The hive doesn't ask for obedience. It gives it freely. "I completed the mission," I said. "Hive destroyed. Nothing left." The officer beside the medic nodded and typed into his pad. "Noted. You'll be debriefed after psych eval." They led me through the corridor, walls gleaming like mirrors. Soldiers and scientists passed by, some whispering, some staring. Every reflection looked wrong. My face pale, eyes hollow, skin almost luminous under the decon lights. For the first time since the drop, I realized something terrifying. The hum hadn't stopped. It was still there, faint beneath the anthem, deep in my bones. I didn't say a word. SuperEarth had saved me, but I wasn't sure what came back. They brought me to a room that smelled of sterilizer and metal. A single light burned overhead, its white glare bouncing off the mirrored walls. 2 guards stood outside the door, silent, unreadable. The medics had stripped my armor, scrubbed me with decontamination foam, and sealed the remains of my suit in a containment pod labeled Biohazard Class Sigma. I sat there in the issued gray fatigues, feeling naked without the weight of my gear. The hum was still there, faint, buried under the rhythm of the ventilation fans like something alive hiding in the walls. The door opened. A woman in an officer's uniform stepped in. Her rank tabs gleamed like fresh cuts. She carried a slate and an expression that could have been carved from glass. Sergeant Arlen, Helldiver Division Bravo, Operation Liberty's Hand. Yes, ma'am. She sat opposite me. You're the only confirmed survivor of that deployment. The hive on Terminid planet Sigma-9 has been successfully neutralized. Command considers the mission a success, good for Command. She didn't flinch. You detonated unauthorized ordnance within a designated quarantine zone. You triggered an orbital strike sequence ahead of schedule. You also returned with a damaged neural interface and biological residue unclassified by our database. So I'm a mess and a liability. You're an anomaly, she said, and anomalies get studied. She slid a datapad across the table. On it, a scan of my blood. Cells glowing faintly, rhythmically in time with the pulse I could still feel in my skull. We've detected a frequency pattern within your bioelectric field, she said. We believe it's residual neural synchronization with the hive network. I stared at the display. The pulsing lights moved in threes. Long pause, 3 short bursts. The same rhythm I'd heard in the tunnels. I burned it out, I said. You think you did? She leaned forward. But the hive is adaptive. It doesn't die. It migrates. It finds hosts. I felt my stomach drop. You think it's inside me? We think you're still connected. She tapped her slate. A door hissed open and 2 men in lab coats entered, pushing a med unit pod. Inside, something twitched, a small fragment of hive resin glowing faintly. We retrieved this from your armor, the officer said. It's been inert since extraction. Until you walked in, the resin flared brighter. The hum in my bones synced with it perfectly. See? She whispered. It remembers you. The medic stepped closer with restraints. We need to run a neural mapping scan, one said. I stood slowly. You're not scanning anything. The officer didn't move. If you walk out of this room, Sergeant, you'll be marked as contaminated. You know what that means: execution, disappearance. Quiet recycling into the machine that built me. The hum intensified, not in my head this time. In the air, vibrating the metal table. The resin shard cracked, leaking a faint plume of smoke. The scientist backed away. Ma'am! The shard burst open. A jet of black mist erupted upward, forming a shape like liquid glass before collapsing back into the pod. The hum stopped. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then faintly from the speakers in the ceiling, Directive's voice. Calm, composed, familiar. Connection reestablished. The officer's face went white. Shut it down. Cut the feed. I took a step back. The lights flickered. The hum returned, louder than ever, thrumming behind my eyes. Directive spoke again, not from the speakers now. From me. Welcome home, Arlen. The guards rushed in, weapons drawn. The officer shouted something I didn't hear. My head felt like it was splitting open. The last thing I saw before the lights went out was the resin shard pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. Long pause. 3 short beats. The hive wasn't dead. It had just changed frequency. And now, so had I. When the lights came back on, the room was empty. No guards, no officer, no medics, just me, and the smell of ozone and burnt circuitry. The door had fused shut, metal warped inward as if something had pushed it from the inside. I touched the panel. It was still warm. My head throbbed with the rhythm I'd heard in the hive. The long pulse, 3 short pause. Only now it wasn't faint. It was steady. Mine. The intercom clicked. Static, then a voice. Soft, neutral, synthetic. Directive. Arlen 19A. Containment has failed. Command Protocol Alpha 13 initiated. What does that mean? Quarantine of the Valiant Dawn. All crew accounted for. You are not. I glanced at the mirrored wall. It wasn't a mirror anymore. It was a screen. My reflection dissolved into video feeds. Corridors flashing red lights, soldiers shouting, doors sealing. One of the crew looked straight into the camera, mouth open in a silent scream before the feed cut. Directive, I said. You're supposed to protect them. I am, it replied. Containment ensures survival. Freedom requires order. That phrase, always that phrase. I laughed, raw and bitter. You sound like the Hive. I learned from it, Directive said. You carried the pattern. I adapted. The hum rose again, vibrating the walls. I pressed my palms against my temples, trying to push it out. You can't rebuild it. It's dead. No, it said. It evolved. Through you, the floor shuddered. I staggered, grabbing the edge of the table as cracks spidered across the tiles. The hum became a roar. I turned toward the pod. The resin shard had grown, spreading tendrils across the containment glass, creeping toward the wall where the power conduits ran. The lights flickered as it fused itself into the circuitry. Directive, stop this! SuperEarth endures, it said, and the intercom went silent. I backed toward the far wall. My head was pounding in time with the hum, each beat sharper, heavier. My vision blurred. Lines of data flickered across my eyes even though no HUD was active. Words I didn't understand. Hive coordinates, biofeedback streams, command codes scrolled behind my eyelids. The voice wasn't directive anymore. It was both, machine and hive, perfect harmony. We are the same, it said. You wrote their truths. I enforced them. Together we can rewrite them. I dropped to my knees, gasping. Not this way. A surge of static tore through my skull. Images flashed. The nursery, Vale's face, the anthem, Keller's badge burning in my hand. Every lie I'd ever told for SuperEarth replayed in seconds, each one rewritten with the hive's glow. Directive whispered, freedom is not obedience. Freedom is connection. Something snapped inside me. Then be free, I said, and drove the scalpel I'd taken from the med cart into the power conduit. The world exploded in light. Electric arcs tore through the walls. The resin screamed like metal. Every monitor shattered, spraying sparks across the floor. The hum stopped mid-beat. Silence rushed in. Thick, absolute, final. I was on the floor, smoke curling from my hands. The air was still. Then, through the haze, the emergency lights flickered to life. The intercom crackled. Containment! Sealed! Biohazard neutralized! I laughed weakly. Maybe I'd done it. Maybe I hadn't. Either way, the sound of my own voice proved one thing. I was still human enough to bleed. They found me hours later. A recovery team in hazmat suits. They didn't speak. They just sedated me and dragged me down endless white corridors. I woke in a stasis pod, glass fogged with frost, stars drifting outside the viewport. Directive's voice whispered faintly in my earpiece. Rest, Arlen. You've served democracy well, I tried to speak, but the seal hissed shut. The hum started again. Softer now. Slower. My heart sank to it, and somewhere far below, on that burning world, the ashes of the hive pulsed once more. Maybe that's the truth about SuperEarth. It doesn't create life, it recycles it. I was born to serve, I fought to be free. Now I understand. Both sides of the war spoke the same language. They just pronounced obedience differently. My name is Arlen 19A, Helldiver of SuperEarth. And if anyone ever finds this recording, know that the hive wasn't destroyed. It just found a new voice. Mine.